The night had the kind of magic you don't expect. Effortless, glowing with joy, and thick with celebration. Laughter wove through the rooms, the flicker of candlelight dancing against the walls as music floated in the background. My wife, Elena, had just reached a milestone. Promoted to senior partner at her firm after years of relentless work and sacrifice. She was radiant that night, the kind of radiant that came from within. Her smile had weight. Her laugh had power. She looked free, proud, and for the first time in a long while completely alive. To celebrate, she planned a dinner at our place. Small but meaningful. Friends, a few of her colleagues, and her boss Marcus Caldwell were invited. I spent the entire day preparing. Making sure everything was spotless, the wine was chilled, the playlist was just right. I even dug out the old suit I hadn't worn in years, brushing off the dust like I was dusting off some forgotten version of myself. When she came downstairs in a deep red dress, everything around her seemed to blur. It wasn't about the color or the fabric. It was the way she owned it. When she caught me staring, she smiled with that old familiar mischief. "Too much?" she teased. "Perfect," I said simply and meant it. The evening unfolded like a storybook, until it didn't. Marcus stood up toward the end of dinner, holding his wine glass loosely, that practiced smirk already curling on his face. The room quieted, expecting something thoughtful or charming. But instead, he turned to me with an edge in his voice. "Liam," he began, raising his glass in my direction. "You must know how Elena earned that promotion." Laughter faltered. Conversations stilled. At first, I thought he was setting up some awkward joke. One of those tasteless, lazy remarks that misses the mark. But the glint in his eye wasn't one of humor. It was challenge. "That dress she wore to the office last week," he continued, nodding toward her, "stopped everyone in their tracks. I thought about giving her a raise on the spot." Someone chuckled nervously. I didn't. I felt like something had cracked open in the air. The room shifted. Even the music felt distant now, like it no longer belonged to the moment. Marcus wasn't finished. He leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice just enough to force everyone to lean in. "Let's be honest, Liam. That woman could walk in wearing a garbage bag and still have half the firm begging for her time. You're a lucky man. Loyal woman. Still, for one night, I almost doubled her salary." The laughter stopped. Dead silence took its place. Elena stared at him like he'd just spoken in a language no one else could understand. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I didn't say a word. I stood up, walked across the room, and smashed the wine glass against the side of Marcus's head. It wasn't rage. It was something quieter. A line had been crossed, and I acted. The shattering of glass rang through the house. Marcus stumbled backward, his hand flying to his temple as blood trickled through his fingers. His expression turned from smug to stunned. Gasps filled the room. Someone let out a scream. No one moved. I pointed toward the door. "Leave," I said, cold, unshaken. He didn't fight it. Maybe he knew he had gone too far. Maybe he just didn't expect anyone to ever stand up to him like that. He staggered out, humiliated and bleeding. One by one, the rest followed, awkward and silent, no one knowing what to say. Elena and I were the only ones left. The air was thick with everything unspoken. "You're not going back there," I said, voice steady. Her expression twisted. Shock, disbelief, a flicker of fear. "Liam," I didn't know he was going to say that. "I didn't." "I don't care," I interrupted. "If you return to that place, this marriage is over." She said nothing. The tension hung heavy as I turned away, unable to even look at her. The next morning, I woke to the sound of the iron humming in the corner. Elena was pressing a blouse, her face calm, movements stiff and controlled, like the night before had just been another awkward dinner party. "You're still going?" I asked. She didn't stop ironing. "I need that job." I stepped closer. "If you walk out that door, you're choosing him." The argument that followed burned fast and hard. Her voice cracked, tears welled up, but still, she defended him, insisting he was drunk, that it wasn't worth destroying everything. But I saw the truth in her eyes. It wasn't just about a paycheck. It was about power, recognition, and how far she'd come. She wasn't just afraid of losing her job. She was terrified of losing the version of herself tied to it. I couldn't stay. I grabbed my keys and left. When I came home later, the house was quiet. Elena sat on the couch, her eyes rimmed with red, staring blankly at the wall. "He fired me," she whispered. Marcus, bruised and stitched, had dismissed her without a word of sympathy. No warning, no ceremony. One moment she was senior partner. The next she was unemployed. I didn't say anything right away. Part of me had expected it. Another part, a deeper one, felt almost relieved. Not because I wanted to see her fall, but because she was finally free of him. The weeks since have been hard. She's been applying for work, attending interviews, rebuilding from scratch. There's no glamour in her steps now, but there's something more honest. Her eyes don't chase admiration the way they used to. She's quieter. She listens more. And every now and then, I see her looking at me the way she used to. That night wasn't just about a man making an offensive comment. It was about the cracks that ambition hides, the things we allow when the cost seems acceptable until it isn't. It forced both of us to look at who we had become. It stripped away illusions. And maybe that's where everything truly began to change. Not with applause, but with silence, with truth.